Imagine that tomorrow morning, the bridges were raised and the tunnels sealed. Imagine that New York City declared total independence from the United States. In that exact second, one of the richest and most powerful nations on Earth would be born. But how did a small island of stone and swamp manage to accumulate more wealth than empires with thousands of years of history? Unlike ancient superpowers, New York did not expand its borders with wars of conquest. Of course, today the city possesses a police force with a budget of $5 billion, larger than the standing army of many sovereign countries, but its historic weapon was never gunpowder. It was trade. Today, we are going to discover why New York is not just an American city, but the unofficial capital of the planet. And if you want to understand how geography defines who wins and who loses, subscribe now. Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Economic Titan. To understand the weight of this city, we need to look at the cold numbers. If the New York metropolitan area were an independent country today, its economy would rival that of all of Russia. It would surpass South Korea. It would leave Australia and Spain behind. We are talking about a gross domestic product that fluctuates close to $2 trillion. All of this concentrated in a tiny geographical patch. What makes this fascinating is the paradox. Most superpowers need vast lands for agriculture or mountains full of minerals to grow. New York has none of that. It is a statistical anomaly. It competes for global dominance against continental nations using only two tools: strategic location and human density. But this location was not chosen by chance. The destiny of this city was written millions of years before the first human beings stepped there. Chapter 2. The Geography of Destiny. If you look at the map of the east coast of North America, you will realize that nature drew a target exactly here. First, we have the almost perfect harbor. Long Island and Staten Island act like gigantic arms that protect the bay from the fury of the Atlantic Ocean. While rival ports further north suffered from harsh winters and difficult routes, and ports to the south were too shallow for large ships, New York offered a calm, deep, and ice-free pool all year round, capable of sheltering the largest naval fleets in the world, with absolute safety. But the real magic, and the challenge, lies beneath our feet. About 20,000 years ago, a colossal glacier scraped the soft earth of this region and exposed a very hard rock called Manhattan schist. And this is where geology meets economics. If you observe the Manhattan skyline from afar, you will see something curious. A huge group of skyscrapers at the southern tip, another huge group in the center, and a valley of low buildings in the middle. For a long time, a myth was believed. They said that in the middle of the island, the rock was too deep, preventing the construction of skyscrapers. The reality is more complex. The rock in the middle of the island really does dive deeper, which requires more expensive foundations. But engineering would allow building there. The valley in the skyline was, in fact, a financial decision. That intermediate area was occupied by factories and working-class neighborhoods. The rich developers preferred to build near the financial port, to the south, or near the elegant train station in the center. It was a union of stone and money. Geology made it difficult, but capital decided where the skyline would rise. But having the perfect harbor and tall buildings is useless if you do not have anywhere to take the merchandise. And there was a giant problem blocking the way to the rest of America: the Appalachian Mountains. Chapter 3. The Open Vein of America. At the beginning of the 19th century, New York was not the undisputed leader. Cities like Philadelphia and Boston were fierce competitors. The problem for all of them was the same. The mountains blocked access to the fertile interior of the United States. Transporting goods by land, crossing mountains with wagons, was incredibly expensive, about $100 per ton. New York saw this as an engineering opportunity. In 1817, the state approved the construction of the Erie Canal. It was a work considered impossible, nicknamed by critics as Clinton's Folly. There were almost 373 miles of canal dug, often by hand and with black powder, connecting the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes. When the canal opened in 1825, the global economy changed instantly. The cost to transport a ton of cargo plummeted from $100 to less than $6. the travel time dropped from weeks to days. Suddenly, all the wheat and resources of the vast American Midwest flowed east, straight to the port of New York. The city became the funnel of an entire continent. This guaranteed that New York became America's vault. If you wanted to sell or buy, the money passed through there. But this obsession with trade was not born with the canal. It was in the city's DNA, long before the United States existed. Chapter 4. The Colonial Enterprise. To understand the soul of New York, you need to look at who founded it. While Boston was colonized by religious pilgrims seeking spiritual purity, New York was founded by the Dutch West India Company. It was not a religious mission. It was a business operation. In 1624, they established New Amsterdam. The goal was to extract furs and make a profit. The city was not designed around a church, but around the market. The famous Wall Street received that name because of a wooden palisade built, partly by enslaved labor, to protect the colony's assets. From day one, the land in Manhattan was not seen just as a home, but as a financial asset. This mentality shaped the city physically. In 1811, planners imposed a rigid rectangular grid over the entire island. They ignored hills, streams, and ecosystems. The goal was maximum efficiency, to create the largest possible number of real estate lots easy to buy and sell. Geography was submitted to economics. This corporate origin created a culture of pragmatism. The city tended to tolerate religious and cultural differences not out of kindness, but out of commercial necessity. If you could work and generate profit, you were welcome. But this global attraction created a new problem. There was no more space on the ground. And when you cannot go sideways, the only option is to defy gravity. Chapter 5. The Vertical Life. If the grid organized the ground, the elevator conquered the sky. Before 1850, the highest floors were the cheapest. No one wanted to climb 6 flights of stairs. They were hot places and destined for the poorest. The safety elevator reversed the social pyramid. Suddenly, the top became luxury. This allowed for a density that works like a human supercomputer. The extreme proximity of millions of minds accelerates innovation. But living here requires accepting a peculiar contract. The air above your head is a commodity. There is a concept called air rights. Low buildings can sell the empty space above them so that the neighbor can build an even taller building. In New York, they literally monetize the sky. However, this concrete machine has a human cost. Chapter 6. The Cost of Ambition. Every icon of this city hides a story of sacrifice. Look at the Brooklyn Bridge. To connect the islands, engineers needed to dig into the riverbed using pneumatic caissons. Submerged wooden chambers filled with compressed air. Workers suffered from a mysterious disease at the time: decompression sickness. Nitrogen bubbled in their blood when they rose to the surface. Washington Roebling, the chief engineer, was paralyzed by this condition. For 11 years, the work was managed on-site by his wife, Emily Roebling, who learned mathematics and advanced engineering to ensure the bridge was finished. The structure that unites the city stands upon the destroyed health of its creators, and the fragility continues. In July of 1977, lightning struck electrical substations and New York went dark. For 25 hours, the capital of the world regressed to the dark ages. Without elevators, without subways, and with social chaos exploding on the streets, there were mass lootings and fires. That event proved that New York is an artificial organism. It needs constant energy to keep civilization running. If the plug is pulled, chaos waits at the door, but the city always flips the switch back on. Chapter 7. The Digital Reinvention. Today, the smoke from factories has disappeared. Modern New York no longer produces ships. It exports algorithms and culture. The subway, over 100 years old, is still the vital artery. Although the number of passengers fluctuates, it moves millions of people every day. It is old, noisy, and needs constant repairs, but without it, the economy would stop in an hour. Technology only amplified the city's reach. Fiber optic cables leaving Wall Street carry decisions that affect the price of bread in India, or oil in Brazil, in nanoseconds. New York stopped being just a physical place to become a global operating system. In the end, New York proves a fascinating thesis. It is the result of what happens when perfect geography, the harbor, the rock, the river, meets unrestrained human ambition. Whether it is a country or not is just a matter of semantics. In practice, it operates like an empire. The lesson that remains is that geography deals the cards, but it is the ability to adapt that wins the game. If you liked this analysis on how the world really works, leave your comment. Which other city defies the laws of nature? Maybe Dubai. Or, who knows, Tokyo. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fun facts and untold stories every week.